100 to go. In Coda, Miss Jolene. Belvedere boys driving the far side. In Coda, Belvedere boys. In Coda just. In Coda holds on. Zarastro giving a sight here, 150 to go. The Novelist tries ever so hard. Zarastro's going further in front. Snippets is all over. Zarastro, too good for them. West of Africa coming after Charmstone. West of Africa dropped on them and won. And then out wide of Basusto, it's Cottogio in front, 150 to go. Basusto's coming to beat him with arriving home. Cottogio, Basusto, give me spaces, flying, missed, just missed. OLA's hit the front, 100 metres left to run. Memo's running on. It's OLA in front, and OLA's racing away in an unforgettable millions in the club's colours and all.
She was a superstar. She drew gate 3. She had Tommy Berry on, and when Unencumbered won 11 years ago, we had Nathan Berry on. He drew gate 3, and he was very much like her, strong, fast from day dot. Special. I got very emotional. I was in a taxi thinking of Nathan. We miss him a lot. So, very special. See people rocking, yeah, people chanting, feeling hot, hot, hot. Keep the spirit, come on, let's do it, feeling hot, hot, hot. Hands in the air, celebration time.
And now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the year-round carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphy.
Yeah, some of the Magic Millions Day highlights from last year where, of course, the meeting was transferred and as far as week 1, and oh my goodness, there's all types of problems. There's no problems this year, and we've got the mouthguard in. Thanks so much for being a customer of Year-Round Carnival. Can't wait to get my feet, hands, everything stuck into Magic Millions Day 2026 with Vince Accardi for Daily Sectionals. Good morning, mate.
Hey, Ralphy, how are you?
Very good. We're back into it for 2026, and this is a really good card.
But this is a very good card. Last week was a good card. Track's going to be fine. It looks like you have to be up there, up on the speed again. But it's very good meeting. I can't believe how much money's on the table as well. So much money.
Hopefully we can get some of it. And we'll start off with, we'll go through the features in order. So there's the first 3 races are sort of not much to it. And we start off with the distance race in race 4. I've been covering Sizzlers for 5 weeks. So pretty confident I got my hand around the locals, and then it's going to be some mixed form lines going into it. And the starting point has to be Miss Jolene, who's absolutely airborne. The question is, and you did touch on it already, could it end up in a situation where she's too far back?
Well, going to be always a challenge. It doesn't mean you can't come from behind. When you look at the intel from last week, there was one winner that came from about 8.5 lengths off the leader at the 800. There was another one that was around 6. The rest were all pretty much on speed, 2 to 3 lengths maximum off the lead pack. So you can do it. I guess the big question has to be, number 1, what's the competition? And does it have a real superior class edge? That has to be probably the biggest signal, the potential class edge the horse has over this field.
Just what type of form is she in? Because this time last year she was narrowly beaten by Encoder, who's second favourite, and might even test her. I'll get to why shortly, but I just think she's gone to a new level this prep.
Absolutely has gone to a new level, Ralphie. Pretty much throughout its career so far, it's battled to sort of get past that benchmark line. There was one run last campaign, second up, where it didn't break benchmark, but on the race matrix, the trend line is that group of horses sort of end up around that half length, 3/4 of a length above benchmark. So that was a nice positive signal. But this time in, third up, bang, 1.8 above, best of the day, 1,500 metres. absolutely franking and smashing through that the horse had that potential to do that. And then when I look at last start, 1,800 metres, 1.1 above, fifth best of the day, you look at the structure of that race as well. You're running near benchmark speed early, Ralphy, and still getting, I won't say like miles above benchmark over the last 400, but 2.6 above when you're on near benchmark speed. First little climb up to near that 2,000 plus range was another real positive signal. There was no weakness in the close over the last 800 metres either, and then you can't dismiss that ground made up, Ralphy. Extraordinary. I mean, this horse's average ground made up's around 4.5.
Here it is. That's from the 800 metres, yeah?
Yep, to the finish line. And last two starts, last start was 9.1 lengths ground made up, and this is about what you said at the start, the potential of the horse getting too far back. And then the start before was 9.4. So the horse is in super form, Ralphy, smashing what its average sort of pattern looks like.
Last week, there's a few horses on the quick back up here, and I'm talking about market expectations, market possibilities here, because it carried 57 kilos. The rest pretty much carried 59 kilos, bar Snitzenova, 56 and a half. This week it goes to 60 kilos, and others are getting weight relief. I think the market's going to let you on for a terrific each way price tomorrow, is the way I'm sort of reading it, because of that weight swing.
I have no doubt this is always the case, Ralphie, about these prices getting extended when they got big weights. So, I see that. I would say if there is I feel there's going to just be that little bit of give in the ground no matter what, because if there's going to be drizzle throughout the day, I see that as a real big asset for this horse. And then when you look at the lane structure of the card, 4 to 11, that's the lane width, is the optimal scenario. So if you're a runner like this who's going to most likely present itself in the midfield back pack, you're not going to have too many problems getting into those lanes, Ralphie, and therefore giving yourself an advantage to some extent. Yes, you're not going to have the lead pack advantage, but you're definitely going to have the advantage to reel in a lot of horses and potentially have an unimpeded run. So the weight for me is all about, are you going to get blocked, checked, can't get out? But there's going to be plenty of space. It's only going to be poor piloting that would stop that from happening. And I don't know. I can't see that.
Before we get to some different form with the Waterhouse pair, Encoder, as I mentioned, beat it last year in this race.
Yep.
And it was a different structure race. It was a blanket finish as well. Last week, it ran second to it, and no doubt it's walked into the stable with this as the goal again this time round. It's technically changed tables from Lee Freeman to Michael, at least all the foreman for Michael for his younger bro up at the Gold Coast. So what's the case for it to turn the tables this week if there is one?
Well, the beauty is this. The horse is pretty much lined up with what it did last campaign. Peaking 0.2 above benchmark is already there second up. A little bit of a taper in that second up run. It's not anything significant. It's only around half a length. Again, probably giving a bit of a signal. The horse was obviously very, very forward in condition first up, and that transition to 1,800 has been a plus. And it did have to cope with a big transition as well, speed-wise, second up. Sometimes, Ralphie, when this happens and you have this fast change up in speed and you're second up on a quick backup, that can work against you. You could have a little bit of flatness, and we're talking about the horse has already matched its PB from previous prep. So it's not like, this horse is just going to come back and be 3, 4, 5 lengths superior. What it's showing is they've got the horse tuned up. It's run right up to its PB in about the same sort of process as last campaign. But the situation is this. You have a look at last campaign, third up to 2,000 metres from 16 to 2,000. So ironic. Last campaign, second up, the horse also travelled with a good speed second up, 1 length below benchmark, where the start before first up was 11.3. Here, we went 12.5 lengths below benchmark first up, almost benchmark second up. and we're rising to 2,200. Third up last campaign, it went sideways, Ralphie. So I just caution, you have to have a little bit of a question mark, and it did get more favourable pace. Now, let's assume you have the same setup again, where they run a lot slower, maybe horse only has to travel 5-6 lengths below benchmark. I still feel you might feel that run off a quick backup.
Let's get to the Waterhouse pair. Major Beal, pretty good. 2 starts back, pretty flat last start. Was it a case of the tempo sort of saw him out? I did note when he won it, he was $21. So maybe it might have flattened him for a few weeks going forward out of it, as in he over exceeded stable expectations.
Well, no doubt there's probably a couple of things there. The first one, yes, you're right. The tempo, 4.9 above, very solid. Still travelling benchmark between the 8 and the 400, and then a massive drop off over the last 400 metres, 6.3 lengths below benchmark. Now, it's not like this horse hasn't got the capacity to go fast. It can go fast, and it's done it in the past. But the challenge is, if this is their strategy, they are going to be faced with similar problems again. If you go too fast and you're out to 2,200 metres, it's not really going to work in your favour. The positive is this, that run 2 starts back is absolutely a good enough profile to win this sort of race, 0.7 above benchmark. But at 2,200 metres, if they endorse a fast speed, I just feel it'll be the sitting duck. So that's what you've got to watch for. Now, that doesn't mean this is what's going to happen. It may not be run that fast, Ralphie. And the horse will just cruise up front with a good tempo. And a good tempo for this horse is somewhere around benchmark, maybe +1, but not +5, +7, +8. That's what it doesn't want. So if it's controlling, then the horse could fight out the finish, but still vulnerability late.
So there's a few others who are all also on the quick backup, and that's Yu Wang, Snitzenova, Wymark, and Sly Boots. And as I mentioned, a couple of these drop significantly in weight that the market will naturally gravitate to. But you actually touched on one point that I'm not sure the market's really factoring in, and that is this is 2,200 metres. I mean, you're going to need a horse who's got staying capacity here, and I'm not sure some of these have franked it.
Well, that's absolutely spot on, and this makes it a challenge. So when you look at, just put that simple template, you say, okay, first of all, like any good form student, you're looking to try and identify the best way possible. Who's the classiest horse? Once you've established that, what's the range? So from the top quartet, followed by the next most important aspect is, what do you like at a distance range? And if you can pass that criteria, then where are you in your cycle or your campaign? Are you trending to peak, or you're a run short? What was that lead-in run like? See, a lot of people talk about how important the last start is. It is important because that is going to give you the big signal about whether you're going to trend up, sideways, or down. So, yeah, and at the long distances, particularly over 2,000 metres, when you get beyond it, it's an even more important factor because a lot of them can't do it, Ralphie.
So this makes, I think, a case, and I know this is only your early edition, but does it make a bit of a case for Yu Wang, the Queensland Oaks winner this distance? This time in, it's third up, but it's an interesting profile. It started in 2, pretty solid miles that were, as big odds. It was obviously just a kickoff. Backed up last week, first time forward, which I'm a big believer in. It sort of gets it says, righto, if it's not today, it could leap off that. It was first time forward. Blinkers come off tomorrow, so it's had that good run at a nice tempo last week, and now the blinkers come off, and Tommy Berry sticks with it, who won on her when it won that Oaks.
I feel like what you're articulating about this horse is very good, Ralphie. Number one, you look at the stable. They're quite capable of generating the right horse on the day when it gets around this distance range, and that's Chris Lee's stable. You have a look at last campaign. Again, this is just that reference point you're making. That was 2,200 metres. The performance was borderline benchmark. Race Matrix has sort of come off just fractionally, by about half a length to 3/4 of a length, but still in that range. I feel that horse was also a lot deeper in the campaign. So it's difficult when they're that deep in the campaign, this is last preparation, to probably go much beyond that, because I feel that that first testing peak was at 2,400 when it was 0.3 below. Now it's at 3 runs in. All the trend signals are upwards from 6.4 below first up to 1.8 below last start. That mid-race probably worked against the horse, going from 2.9 above to negative 2.4. Nice finish. Definitely set to, on the worst case scenario, test, let's call it benchmark line. It doesn't need to do too much more to win it, right? If you find the length, you're going to run first or second, Ralphy, especially if you can tick the box for staying, which this horse does.
All right. Well, we'll wind it up there from that race, but and we'll talk business tomorrow. But obviously, the main takeaway here is that Miss Jolene has got to another level this prep. But the market will probably let you on tomorrow. So, like I said, we'll talk business then. Race 5 on the program here: the fillies and mares, 1,300. Vince, that this is a nice. I always touch on this, that it's a good starting point, that IVR forecast, because you go, wow, $1 million up for grabs. But in the end, because of the restricted nature of the day, they're all here to win. But doesn't mean that that's an awfully strong race, and you say benchmark is just about ready. You cut off to make the top 4.
Yeah, and then you got this challenge. It's a big field.
Yes,
and generally speaking, if you already know, part of the pattern is that if you can be up on speed in a big field, well, you're not going to have any traffic issues. And if you have some sort of limitations on your capability, because this is one of the things that I've definitely discovered for myself over the last 30 years, is when you're a below benchmark operator in terms of horse performance, you cannot overcome the adversity in a race as well as horses that continuously break benchmark. So therefore, you have to be always super cautious if you're in a race like this and you know the runner you're keen on is going to be midfield, possibly slightly further back, or even if it's midfield, if it's drawn to the inside, that if adversity comes and you're going to get checked and blocked, your probability of going to the window or to the bookie or whatever it is how you put your bet on is going to be a lot lower.
So you've got most advantage to knockout. There's a couple of horses that are first up tomorrow, and one of the great things about this day, Vince, is that it doesn't matter if they're first up or 10th up; they're all set for this. So it's a good filter, and I think it's a remarkable price at $7 each way from this reason, because I'm just assuming that it's coming into play. Like I said, with $1 million up for grabs, that first up win at Randwick was just super, and they've booked James McDonald. There's a couple of nice little ends, isn't it?
Well, I feel that, but firstly, 100%. Secondly, the horse is going to be up on pace. That trial. Because the first thing I went to was, can you go benchmark first up like you did last campaign and get around that number? Are you ready for that? You're going to have a look at that trial run. Now, on the rules, it was only an 800-metre trial, so you always have some little question marks around it when they're so short. So you look at the intel and it's like 10.4 lengths below benchmark. But then when you look at who was in the trial, the setup of that trial, the trend line that comes out of that is, if you crystallise it, it's somewhere closer to like a length below benchmark. Now, if you do that, and you ask yourself the question, you've come out of that trial, all your positives from that trial is 2 factors. Number one, the squeeze was 6.2 lengths. It was massive from the 400 to the finish line. The last 200 was 4.5 above, which is exactly what you want. You can see that build. 6 to the 4, 5.2 below. 4 to the 2, 1.6 below. Bang, with a 4.5 above. Last 400 metres. So trial-wise, super signal, you're ready to run benchmark at least. So you just sit back and say, okay, you're going to be on pace. You've got J-Mac on board. It's not it's an easy race, but it's a complicated race because as soon as you want to move away from horses that can't break benchmark and are going to get further than 3 lengths back in this field, it becomes extremely complicated if you want to bet in it. And this horse avoids all that, and you got the clear signal that it's set to it's set to run benchmark or slightly better. I'm not going to say it's going to run a new PB, but it might.
It's got the profile that it could still have more to come, doesn't it?
Yep, exactly.
So most advantage, I'm just going in order here. So Jenny the Fox and Dance to the Boom, because I want to break them for this reason. I think they're both very well exposed. They're deep in their prep. Jenny the Fox on Melbourne Cup Day ran third. Tiny bit of traffic to Dance to the Boom. One was $31. The other one was $21. All of a sudden, Jenny the Fox is $4.20. I reckon it's probably going to get the best run of all time. But where's the improvement going to come from? That Geelong race was just perfectly set up for it with some pretty basic sort of summer mares going far too fast. And Tommy Stockdale on the day rode the perfect race. I can't see how she's going to improve, given that she's been up since August. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was initially looking to, peg it down. But then you look at that last run and you say, well, it did break benchmark. It was the best of the day.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
It suffered a slowdown in the mid-race as well. Not big, but it did still suffer one. So that means, in terms of energy transition, it wasn't super clean. But there's also that massive possibility that's a peak run no matter what. And even if it could have been, say, a half length better, you're still now on a sideways decline shift. So the question is this. If you go sideways, so let's, and this is just spitballing, Ralphie, because you have to deal with these situations. I allowed half a length for the slowdown mid-race. And so, okay, you potentially could have gone 0.8 above benchmark. I reckon you've definitely peaked, so I'm in your camp with that. Now we're sideways downwards. Maybe if you drop a length, that puts you benchmark half below. And then you look at the field and you go, yeah, benchmark half below. Far out. You're still there.
Exactly.
So that's the scary part. You're still there.
Yeah, it's hard to throw rocks at it.
Yeah.
So conversely, Dance to the Boom, who beat it home, as I said, on Melbourne Cup Day and was big odds there. She is a winner, and she was $3.50 at Eagle Farm a fortnight back. She wasn't set for Eagle Farm. She was set here. So given your bounce theory that when it's like a shortish break and it was 60 days between runs, if this is the grand final, this probably says she's going to really peak to her very best tomorrow.
Yeah, that all I'd say is right on point, Ralphie. And you've got a situation where there's a big probability this horse will be in that 3-length net. That means you're going to be forward of the midfield pack. You could be off pace. You won't be. I don't know if you'll be on pace. I've sort of tagged as a possible on pacer, but I feel that no matter what, you're going to be at worst case scenario probably off pace, which means you're going to be inside that 3-length net from the leader. Great place to be. Rider, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
Kevin McAvoy's broken his foot, so he's okay. There's an enforced change, and at the moment there's no rider down.
So that's could play a role. Who's the rider? But we know the stable, no problems, none, zero. They're quite capable to do exactly what you said, and this horse is a winner. Just come back down to you talk about that X factor. It won 3 races in a row. Come back from the let up, and those bounce scenarios, you go and carefully monitor them. They predictably run like that. You either come out off a let up and you test your new PB or your previous PB, or you have a bad run and then you spike with a peak. So the peak for this horse is genuinely has to be around benchmark. That Flemington run, the early signal on the race matrix is indicating that it could even be slightly better than benchmark, but you have to respect that you are a horse that's going to run at least benchmark.
And just so that we mention it, because it's $26 and it's in your most advantage. And I wrote this up in Sizzlers. Now, I probably wasn't expecting it to jump this far in class, but let's underline again, it's not a huge jump in class given that a benchmark forecast. Just in Time was terrific at Canterbury New Year's Day, and She has only had 4 starts for the new stable, won 3 of them. The only miss was on a very wet ground.
Yeah, well, how can you fault that last run? It was fantastic. Love the fact that it's not 7 days either. It's 16 days into the second up run. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's a mare. Didn't probably go over the top in terms of that first section, travelling 2.9 lengths below benchmark. Was a good, solid surge, but there was a significant drop off late, Ralphy, over the last couple of 100 metres. So the horse did feel that run. So the 16 days might be just enough time and give you that potential to test that PB again. And even if you can't break benchmark and you run benchmark, these are the horses that you have to be zoning in on, Ralphie. The horses that are on or around benchmark or better. The others, once you start getting 1, 2, 3 lengths below benchmark, you're taking major risks. Look, even if they were giving you massive prices, what's the point in taking a massive price if you know the horse isn't going to run top 3?
Spot on. All right, we'll leave that race there, talk business tomorrow. Race 6, I just mentioned that New Year's Day meeting at Canterbury. Well, the instructor ran a race where I said, I want to be on you next start, because it clearly said that you're forward, you're fit, and it was picked off, and God bless it, by King Secret that we marked best of the day in its leading run, ended up getting a super price. The fact that they wanted to back this horse when it carried 60 kilos first up, after 200 days away, said the stable were happy with it, it's run well. Why can't it improve again tomorrow and take a power of beating?
Well, even if it didn't improve, even if it just matched it, Ralphie, it just turns up and runs a length above benchmark. How will you miss the money? I just can't see where you miss it. Yeah,
there's not a lot of depth to the race.
Yeah, you're there big time. Look at the setup as well. That was a dramatic squeeze in the middle. You have a look at the history of the horse. That's the biggest squeeze the horse had ever had, 11.2. And again, I always talk about it. When you have big mid-race squeezes, you have to look at the balance scale. Number one, how slow are you going early? Like, if you're 25 lengths below benchmark, and now you're 5 lengths below benchmark, this is the move into this mid-race squeeze, and you got a 20-length mid-race squeeze, it's not as powerful. Even though it's 20 lengths, it's not as powerful as a situation when you come from 2 lengths below benchmark and you go 9.1 above in the mid and you get an 11.2 mid-race squeeze, which is huge. And that horse felt that. Because look at the drop-off, how significant it was over the last 400 metres. So the horse had tenacity to hold on with grit and has to be an improver. The challenge is this: when they're 5, we have to, I guess, give some positive factor because of the stable, right? Yep. Technically, a lot of stables, the horses might go sideways second up. But the reality is, if the Waterhouse Bot team have tuned it up correctly, and I feel no doubt set it up for this, then we can expect this horse to come out and be a big chance of repeating what it did. The little question mark you have to have is when they're 5 and they're second up and they have such a dramatic squeeze in the middle off a fast speed or solid speed, can you be a little bit flat? And just a little signal that you have to be mindful of. That's all. But this horse, generally speaking, second up goes very big. The last campaign, it was fantastic. Second up, but the reality was the setup was different.
Tommy Berry's back on Hidden Wealth for second favourite. Won on this day last year over 1,300 metres. When able to control the race, I suppose that's a bit of a question tomorrow because there does look a lot of speed there. And at 1,200, he's probably going to be at his top throughout.
Oh, yeah, but what a run, Ralphie, last night. What a run. Number 1, best of the day. 0.6 above benchmark. We're 1.1 above benchmark early. 1.2 above in the mid, 3.7 above last 400. Little bit of a dip between the 6 and the 4, so the energy efficiency wasn't perfect, but it was a strong run, Ralphie. Really strong, and at the right time of the form cycle, third up. So I sit back here and say, you're going to be ready for all possibilities tomorrow. Pressure, no pressure, you're going to be ready. And I feel this horse is going to be fighting out the finish.
So I don't think it's a race worth spending a lot of time on, to be honest, post them, because it looks like, Paylight and Spywire are on the quick backup. Are they going to run down the other two? Possibly not. And maybe the one worth mentioning is Zealously, but can it run out 1,200 metres? It's obviously got some class on its side.
It does have class. And when you're faced with a 1,200 metre task, the challenge always comes back down to what sort of tempo is going to be set up front. So if you had a scenario, and we're crystal balling now, and someone said, Ralphy, I know for sure we're going to go 6 to 10 lengths below benchmark early. Well, then you'd be pretty confident Zealous is not going to have a problem running the 1,200. But if the other person comes up to you and says, Ralphy, really confident we're going to run benchmark plus 2, to say, oh, yeah, I'm not touching Zealousy. Doesn't matter who's on it.
There you go.
It'll be too fast pace, 1,200 metres, got to be a big question mark.
All right, let's get to the massive features. The first of them, the $3 million for 2-year-old. Well, I know what I'm replaying on our Tuesday pod. If War Woven wins, it's the members bonus we did after its first run, where you declared this is a horse of serious talent on the rise, and it was $6. So it's a bit hard to take the $1.70 tomorrow, Vince.
Yeah. So it's like everything, right? You have to just sit back and ask yourself the question. All right, it's a big bitter pill to swallow, right? But it might also be another indicator that maybe the rest are a long way off it.
It seems it. Well, what's the talent level for those listening for the first time for what you've said about it?
Well, let's just look at that 1,200 metre run. First of all, that Randwick run over 1,000, when you look at that run in isolation, to turn up, be inside the top 10 for the day, almost get benchmark. You look at the pace set up, 4.8 lengths below benchmark early. I like it when they do that, Ralphie, because what happens is I don't like it as much when you're running near benchmark, which is not easy to do over 1,000 metres, and then you always ask yourself, how are you going to really go when you go to 1,200? Because you've got to be able to relax and settle. So this horse did exactly what a good, capable horse could do. Is the transition in the mid-race was beautiful. It was a 5.5 length mid-race squeeze. Last 400 was +3. You go to the last 200, you see this big drop-off. 2 lengths round figures. Instantly, for me, I go, oh, you're a +2 horse. Instantly. And you're going to get distance. They go to Eagle Farm. It travels 3 lengths faster early, going 1.9 lengths below benchmark. Doesn't have anywhere near the same move in the middle, travelling 1.7 below, and then runs benchmark last 200 with a little taper of about a length. So it was 0.5 below, but from the 4 to the 2, half above, to the last 200, it's around 1 length. What is difficult is this, Ralphie. When a horse goes second up and they're a 2-year-old and they run near benchmark, which is a pretty powerful figure for a youngster, and then you transition up 200 metres, you run sideways. And the horse runs sideways, wins, and there's more upside coming. And there's no way the horse was tested. No way was the horse tested. Yeah. So unless there's something, smoking gun, I look at that. What are the smoking guns? Oh, maybe if there was this downfall, torrential rain, the horse doesn't want to, go through wet ground. Well, I don't think that's happening. And these days, they're gone. It's all good.
I know you don't normally do historics, but one of the things I like using historics is, can this be done before, and what have we learnt from those things? And you touched on the figure from 1,200 metres, -3.5, but that's after initially showing talent. There's 2 horses, recent winners of this race, they've all done almost exactly the same thing. Coolangatta, -4.1 when it won over 1,200 before it won the gold this race. And Stormboy was almost exactly the same, -2.7. So you certainly wouldn't be worried about what it did on the clock at 1,200 after showing that talent. It just matches that beautiful profile of getting that 1,200 run, 2-year-old, not enough strength to run a good time, but it sets it up beautifully for this race.
Yeah, and stable's very capable.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the ground made up as well, Ralphie. Jeez, that's look at that more and more. They're very good signs, Ralphie. Everything is pointing in the right direction. Just need a clean jump out, drawn perfectly, get your right running lane. You're there. You're the horse to beat. But professionally, betting wise, wow, you're right. It's a big pill to swallow.
You're just watching. I suppose the only question is there something left field, because there isn't on the Ziploc $7 Toronado Valley. The one I want to ask you about though is Unit 5. It's one of that quirky Caulfield Heath track that I don't think we've got a real handle on yet, because we've just only been racing on it for 2 years. It won easily, and I liked its Gold Coast trial to the eye. Just, is there a chance that in this stable, C Mar VB Baker, so it's a race like that, is there a chance that it's got some upside?
I have no doubt it's got upside, but you need to find 5 just to be competitive.
That's
this
a lot.
Is my favourite. So it can do it. We know young horses can do it, and this stable can do it. So I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, it can't do it. Of course it can. And really, 1,100 metres first up on the Heath, no matter what, that's good effort. So I'm paying respect to that horse. That could definitely do something. I thought the other run, that number 7.
Cheeky. Yep.
Yeah, I thought this is a horse that if something was to go wrong with the short price favourite, this could present itself as a really interesting runner. And it looks to me, even though it won last start, just looks set to improve further. So, and this is a stable that are also very good at this sort of race, Ralphie. But I'm talking stories. They've all got to find 3 to 5, 6, 7, 8 lengths to beat the short price favourite.
And there's another short price favourite, the 3-year-old. This is for $3 million as well. Ninja. You watch that race and your head rolled off. You thought, what has this done? Where has this come from? And I suppose the other thing to put on the table, we've touched on this ground made up figure that we've started to use recently. I rarely see plus 10. Well, it's made up 12.5 lengths when it obliterated the field last start.
Yeah, Ralphie. And it's got it in its ammo, right? Because if you go back second race start in its life, that was 11.8 that it made up. So very, very capable, right, of doing that. And this is another horse, just wants to be a winner.
Yes.
These are the sort of horses, if you find them, of course, you don't really want to find them when they're $1.90, right? Because guys like me, it's too hard to get set, for what you want. But the reality is they're just money makers. And that last start run was just fantastic. 1.4 lengths below benchmark early. 4.4 above in the mid. 0.1 above last 400. What it really says is not only did you have to make up that 12.5 lengths, once you flattened out and peaked, mind you, the horse peaked probably 400 from the line, Ralphie, and still made up all that ground and won. Like, what's that tell you?
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. We're nowhere near where this horse could go.
Well, it's funny. So again, particularly for people getting this for the first time, your cutoff is always even money, and not even money as long as you can get $1.30 the place.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you get on with this wide barrier. So because that's going to be a factor tomorrow, the wide barrier. What's your forecast as far as where it maps on your grid?
Yeah, well, when you look at there's a few things that we can look at. Typically, the first thing that I felt this horse had to overcome when I was doing the form on this horse yesterday was, number one, this horse has got wet track capability. And when there was wet tracks, it was like hard up on the pace. Now, with the exception of last run, this horse generally, it's hard to sit here and say this horse is going to be further back than 3 or 4 lengths. Now, you're drawn really wide. If they go all the way back, I don't believe Tommy will, but if he did go all the way back to last, well then you probably wouldn't want to touch it, because I don't feel the horse can make up 15 lengths.
Yeah.
But the reality is I don't feel that's going to be the case. I feel he's going to be pressing in a forward motion, looking for a spot. Let's say he finds a spot and it happens to be 6 off him. Huge. Reality is that if this horse had drawn anywhere from gates 3 to 10, I reckon the horse would have been first 4 in the running line.
No speed, no talent. It's got talent.
Yep, got talent, yeah.
There it is. And that's the thing. With $3 million up for grabs, you reckon they're going to just drop out last and hope?
Oh, no way. Like especially this stable, they're super tacticians, right? Yep. They would have planned all the scenarios. Yeah, it's only probably bad luck, wrong step, things like that would push the horse into a backward position. I'd say all other factors, they'd be looking for the spot.
I'll just put one on the table here because so Olay that we heard at the start won the 2-year-old last year, beating Memo. Is Memo a chance that it's a bit of a bounce theory here that we've mentioned before? The Team Snowden, very, very capable grand final trainer. It's got J-Mac on and had a bit of run-in traffic at Gosford. It also had traffic at Moonee Valley. Is there a chance it's going to run to its best? Now, I'm not saying it to beat the winner. I only expect bad luck to beat the winner. But for those taking multis, I think $13 is one to consider.
Yeah, I had a look at this horse because it sort of came out in the sort of wide net, like there was a possibility. Yeah. But then when I look at the profile, you look at the first up run, just going back 147. Now it's a 64-day break. It turned up and ran 3.5 lengths below benchmark. It was solid. But then I look at the structure of the horse's history. Of course, I don't see the 1,400 metres being any issues at all. I feel that if you're ever looking for a horse that here's your chance to roll the dice and see how well you can go at 14, here's your opportunity, I feel this is correct. The challenge is, what's the possibility of this horse, say, running a length below benchmark? Not even benchmark, just a length below. That's the question. Is it capable of doing that? And how well is it going to be able to handle itself on variable speed, where I feel there will be good pace in this race? What does that do to you? Where does that force you? And see, this is the thing. When you look at the ground made up on a horse like this is one of the other things that I've been practicing on over the last month or so, is you see typically this horse's line, its average ground made up's around 1.5. It's got a peak there of 8.1 ground made up, and I went straight to it. The pace early, 9.5 below benchmark it was travelling. Yeah. So let's say they said we're looking for that, because we want to make sure we run a strong 1,400. There's big money on the table. Let it find its feet, J-Mac, and then give it everything you got. Well, where do you want to be? How far back can you afford to get? Now, on a fast run race, you might find yourself 8 lengths off the speed, but travelling 3 lengths below benchmark. What would you do then? So these are the little risks with these sort of horses, is they've got to get the tempo right. And if the tempo's orderly, bingo. The horse you're talking about now presents itself as a live chance.
All right. Well, let's not spend too much time on those two features. It sounds like there's nothing to knock either runner. Full stop. Full stop.
No.
Outside of those two features, I think the theme for the day is wide barriers and top weights might end up setting up some value. And so we've mentioned that before with Miss Jolene rather, when in the distance race. Is this the same situation here, that the Magic Millions Cup 1,400 metres, yellow brick 60.5? It was super last week, and a thing I suppose to put on the table, normally you'd see such a big run first up, you go, well, is there any chance of flatness? It was 84 days. They had 3 trials. It was $1.5 million up for grabs. That horse turned up fit, didn't it?
Well, Ralphy, I was really keen on it last week. Yep. Like, really keen. I said, this horse going to take a ton of beating. At
any stage were you worried in the run?
No.
Just never going to lose.
No, just way too good, right? And I just look back and go, what a figure. I was a little bit surprised. After the event, they go, yeah, we're looking at the backup. I was going, oh. You see, it's the old story, Ralphie. Fast backups. I know there's so many people love that. Now, I can't push the horse anywhere else other than its current profile. It's outstanding.
Yes.
It's got a high peak too. So everything gives you that signal we're going upwards. But it's second up 7 days off a solid run. That's the question mark. So when I heard that they said, oh, yeah, we're looking at it, I was going, oh, thank God I found it today. Now, I've done the work. I can't not have it on top because the run was fantastic. And just because I have these thoughts about second up, these are just the way I'm looking at it. It doesn't mean the horse can't overcome that. Just they're all little negatives when it comes to. See, there's one thing when you're trying to do predictability on a race, and there's another factor when you want to say, now I want to put my money on.
Yes.
They don't equal the same.
That is true.
Yeah, you either get a bit colder or you get more aggressive. So I can't be as aggressive as I was last start. But the horse has the same probability of winning, but the setup's different.
Okay. So let's look at a couple of other main chances then, because clearly you're saying there are a few, and I'll just go in racebook order down to need some luck. And I was very happy watching this race last start. It's 14 days between runs now. It was a bit plain second up, but who knows why? And that was heavy track to fast track it and fast tempo at 1200, but at Cranbourne. But it was the one you wanted to be on the run last start, and probably going to get the right run again.
It was fantastic. A little bit of a taper at the end, still giving you the good confidence that the horse is, I would say, high chance of, number one, definitely repeating what it did last start at 0.2 above, but testing its previous peak of around half length above. It doesn't make you better than Yellow Brick, because Yellow Brick's capable of going about +2, but the reality is, given all the things we just talked about, Yellow Brick, and some of the characteristics don't fit perfect, this horse doesn't have that problem. This horse looks set to peak tomorrow. And therefore, you would take a baseline look and say, right, you're going to run benchmark 0.2 minimum, half above. Who knows whether you can find another level beyond that. Now, what do we need to win the race? What's it take to be competitive? Well, the line is benchmark a half is where you have to be. So the horse fits all the characteristics. Where's it going to be in running? Probably not perfect in terms of position in running. But barrier-wise, I feel it's going to be fine. It's there. Nice.
Bezusto, you've got third most advantage at the moment. Early edition, it can change, of course, tomorrow when the final comes out. But I suppose it won this race last year. James McDonald, who rode Yellow Brick last week, goes on to Bezusto. I'm assuming there was a pre-commitment, but that's also a good sign of confidence.
Oh, yeah, definitely a good sign of confidence for sure, Ralphie. You have to, no question, look at that as being a plus sign, not a negative. So it's a simple one for me. I just look at it and say, okay, here you are. I look at the trial. The signals on the trial was pretty solid, Ralphie, giving me enough confidence to say that you're ready. I mean, I know these are all obvious things because so you should be, but I look at the stable, even though her strategy, this is the Bell Nisham stable, has been modified over time, where they're a lot better with not just having them exploding first up. The lead-in trial is that she certainly hasn't forgotten how to have the horse screwed down, ready to go first up for a big run, and that's the signal, because the barrier trial says half a length below benchmark. First up last campaign, Randwick, bang. What did it run? Benchmark. Ran second. The horse isn't going to have any issues doing that. So then I looked at the Rose Hill run, 0.4 above. I'd say that's where we're going. Around half length above benchmark. Where's that put you? Right in the race. Well, here's the little challenges for the horse now. The question is, what's J Mac going to do from the gate? And where does his horse typically like to sit? 1,400 metres, when you just blend through it. Even if you just go into isolation, you say to yourself, all right, I want to look at this 1,400 metre profile. What's it tell me about the horse? The closest it's been is about a length from the lead pack. The furthest it's been is about 3. So if that's the range that J-Mac's going to be pushing forward, he knows he's got a rock-hard fit horse ready to go first up, just not race ready, but this stable can get you there. Then you ask yourself the question, all right, 1 to 3 lengths from the leader, can you slot in? If you can slot in, you're there.
Because worth mentioning, and I'll ask you about Cool Jakey as well, that on your early grid, there's 2 or 3 horses that could cross him, which obviously creates pressure and creates opportunities to slot in as well. So that could be a plus as well. Cool Jakey had the perfect setup last start. It was personally delightful watching it. It's a different dynamic with a bigger field to be able to cross them, but he's got blinkers on again. I dare say this is his target race, and Joe Pride's not a trainer to mess with when it comes to targeting horses, targeting races. He's so good at it.
Yeah, and he looks like he's got the horse ready to peak as well, Ralphie. A little bit of a taper there over the last 400 metres, giving you that sign that there's a little bit more to come. How much more? Well, it's got to test that benchmark line. Like, class-wise, it's definitely behind a few. So it is going to have a little bit of reliance on some of those other horses not being, like, on point. But this horse looks ready to at least test that benchmark line. Now, whether that's enough, you see, this is the thing. Again, I'm only just talking through my own prism of the way I see things, is when you have these sort of setups, I can sit there and say you can win. But can I put my money on you?
Yes.
Right? And at the end of the day, everyone that's tuning in, it all comes back down to the bottom line. Are we willing
100%.
to back it? That's all.
Well, the one at odds that I just don't want to not have, or at least put on the table, is West of Africa. It was super when it won this race last year. We've mentioned it a couple of times in Sizzlers, and I've spoken about it to you on Members Bonus Podcast. This horse just looks absolutely soul-focused, ready to peak again third up. Craig Williams being booked to me is the big screaming sign as well, that he's probably had this booking for weeks in advance. If he brings what he did last year, gee, he's going to run a good race at $17.
Yeah, well, he's drawn well. He's definitely capable. He did it on multiple occasions last campaign. I look at this preparation. You know what, Ralphie? It could all be exactly that the story's all about peaking tomorrow. It quite could be the case, because the horse first up, 1.2 lengths below benchmark. Nice speed early, 3.9 below. Heavy move in the middle, going +4. Still held on to nearly benchmark. Then last start, got a no-pace scenario, 8.8 below. Good squeeze in the middle of around 8.5 lengths. Strong last 4. They are perfect setup signals, and really not the opportunity to set up to see if you can test your benchmark line. So it will definitely be testing the benchmark line, and you know it's capable. And class-wise, there's not a lot between that and Yellow Brick, so I feel it's a genuine find what you put on the table there, Ralphie.
Nice. All right, and we'll finish with the last race. So, in that it's only a basic class race, $250,000 up for grabs, of course. But Rosalind Star is it ready to go to another level? I've loved its trials by the look of it. What's the clock said?
I'm sure you'd be loving this one too, Ralphie. I have no doubt about you will be loving the Rosalind Star. Did you see the trial? Wow. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dreamer. If that's not a winning trial, I don't know what to say anymore. It was like phenomenal. Absolutely. It broke benchmark in the trial.
Yeah, that's very rare in trials for those who don't clock it like you do.
Very, very hard to do, Ralphie. Even with a regress backwards on the matrix, and that's the structure of the field in that trial. This was absolute race simulation. You might as well say that was a run. 5.6 below early, 2.3 in the mid, plus 4.9 last 400. Good luck trying to hold that back. Good luck trying to hold that back, Ralphie. So I sat back and said, is this the best bet of the day? Because this horse is going to, I hope, you got 1,200 metres that you have to deal with. So and we've got to bring it all, because I have to calm myself down and say, this is the best bet of the day. Winning trial, I love this setup. That's the type of horse I'd like to back, knowing highly unlikely it's going to parade badly. And then I look back and I say, okay, never raced the 1,200 metres. Is that good or bad? Well, the way it closed was sensational. I look at the last campaign. They're all 1,100. Big, strong closing off. Good shape race-wise. Drawn perfect. Zach Lloyd's evolving. You know, he's not J-Mac yet, but he's evolving, right? I'm not saying he's ever going to be J-Mac, but you know, for a young boy, he's definitely like up there. And I just sit back here and say, your only risk is 1,200 metres, if you want to call that a risk, how much you want to weight that in. And the thing that we see is when they trial like, just like phenomenal, could they be flattened? That's it, right? So how do you temper that into it? Your final factoring. So I usually myself, I said this looks like a standout bet, A-grade possibility. Got to deal with this. The trial was like huge. It's 1,200 metres. I still want to back you. What is the price anyway at the moment?
Around about $2.80.
Okay, so it's not like get rich with small money, right? Yep. But the reality is, that's decent. You probably just got to downgrade your betting, but we'll finalise that tomorrow, and then if there was a little bit of give in the ground, I'm not sure if that's going to be a bit of a problem or not, but the reality is I'm taking a position there's only going to be drizzle. This horse, if you remove those other two barriers, it's shaping as the best bet of the day, and it's not $1.50 because that's what it should be.
That's what we like to finish with. All right. Thanks so much for being a customer of Year Round Carnival. As we've touched on, we're going to do a little 10, 15-minute all business edition tomorrow, but we've done the deep dive. Hopefully there's some good opportunities and some good information for you to help with your thoughts for tomorrow.